Hi Earthy people, welcome back to my channel. I'm Gerard, Witch of Earth's Curious Goods, and today I'm going to show you a bind them spell. So if this sounds interesting to you, keep on watching. And without further ado, let's begin. Alright, so I'm going to show you how to bind someone, but this particular spell that I'm going to show you is, I've had a lot of requests, a lot of emails where people are in situations where you need to bind them, but you don't want to hurt them. You just kind of want them to stop hurting somebody in your vicinity, maybe in the home, maybe in your group, but so you want more of a subtle binding. So that's what this spell is. You want to bind them from doing harm against themselves, maybe others, maybe, you know, a pet, what have you. I don't judge on how you're going to use my spell. But as always, I want you to be responsible with this casting. Don't do it out of anger. Don't do it out of viciousness. This is literally to protect yourself or protect your loved ones, okay? That's the whole purpose of this spell. I created this spell when I was, you know, a teenager growing up, and I will say a disclaimer, and when I did do this spell, it tends to, at least in my experience, the divine has its own way of working your magic. So when I did do this spell, the result of it was them going to jail. Sometimes the other time I did the spell, it was to, stop them from doing harm against, some friends in the group. So it kind of made them, kind of be in detention. So with this spell and with all spells, practice safe casting. All right, so I'm gonna bring you guys in a little closer so you can see the table and see what I'm doing so you can follow along. All right, it's hand puppet time. Okay, so you're gonna need a few things. You're going to need 2 hand cutouts. I got these from Amazon. You can get them like in a pack of 10. A lot of teachers will buy supplies for their classes. I did find this under like classroom supplies. Not sure what they do with these, but a witch knows what to do with it. But don't feel obligated where you have to buy. Sometimes I'm a lazy witch, so I would prefer to just buy a pack of these, especially if it comes in handy with bindings and things, keep it on handy in my supply closet kind of feel. But you can just make your own. You just take your hand and just trace it on paper, and then cut it out. As you can tell, like I said, I'm just a lazy witch from time to time. I'd rather it already be cut out, okay? But you will need 2, okay? You're gonna need a permanent marker. You know I'm a slut for a permanent marker. You guys know why I love it. It kind of keeps the magic permanent. It kind of announces to the universe and to your craft, hey, permanent, okay? You're gonna need some black string, black yarn, something where you could just do some tying with. You can even use vine if you want to, just something like a string, okay? This is just black yarn. Black would be preferred just because black helps absorb, take away negativity, and this spell is kind of to bind up that kind of toxic stuff that's going on with that person. So yeah, that's why I'm recommending black. If you don't have black, make the magic your own. Just use like white string, white yarn, something that resonates with you, okay? You're gonna need a lighter or matches, something you can light a fire with. A fireproof safe dish. I'm using this instead of my cauldron today. My cauldron's being used, so yes, we're gonna use this fireproof dish here. So, all right. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to take one of the hand cutouts and you are going to write the first and last name of the person that you're trying to bind, okay? So I'm not doing this on anyone, so I'm just going to put John Doe. Okay, so there you go, John Doe. Now, the more things you know about them, the better. So if you could put a birth date, I'm not doing this on anyone, so you would put their birth date. If you know their favorite color, maybe it's red. If you know where they live, you would put their address on here. I don't know. If you know, just the more things that you can connect to the person, you want to write it on here, okay? All right, so, and what you're doing is basically you're connecting this to your actual target. So it's sort of like a tag lock, right? So the more information you can put on here, the better. Even if you have a picture, you can maybe glue a picture on here, make the Magick your own. It's not really necessary. You can just put their first and last name, okay? Now, all you're gonna do is you're gonna take it with your two hands and you're just gonna stare at it, picture their face. If you have a picture, even better, but picture their face, their experience, everything that they've done to you, kind of pour your emotions into this, okay? Then you're just going to say, you are now the mind, body, and spirit of, and then of course your target, of John Doe. You are now the mind, body, and spirit of John Doe. You are now the mind, body, and spirit of John Doe, okay? So you're just stating that this is a representation of your target, okay? Now you're just gonna burn it. So I'm gonna take the fireproof safe dish and set it on fire. Be very careful with this part, of course, because you know how fire can really get out of hand if you're not careful with it, okay? And you're just burning it. And the goal of this is to create ashes from this. We want the ashes of what we just created. It's okay if it didn't burn all the way through like so. You just continue burning it till you get enough ashes as possible. I tend to like to burn the whole thing. That should give you a lot of ashes to work with. Now, when you get your ashes, of course, you're gonna want to let this cool off a little bit, and then it'll all make sense in a minute. So just, now that you've got your ashes, as you can tell, it doesn't need to burn all the way through. I just like to get enough ashes, and that'll all make sense. So we'll put this to the side, let this cool down, and we're just going to do the next part of the spell. So the other hand cutout that you have, you're going to write their name 3 times on that cutout, okay? So I'm just gonna do John Doe, John Doe, John, and Doe, okay? This is where your string and yarn is going to come in handy. You're gonna take the hand cutout, so it's got their first and last name 3 times on the palm of it, okay? Now you're just going to, in each digit, you're going to tie a knot on there, okay? So this first knot, so you're gonna take it and you're just gonna tie a knot. Before you tie the knot permanently, all you're going to say is, and with this knot, John Doe is bound, okay? And all you're going to do now, so you have that first knot. I'm starting at the pinky, you can start at the thumb, whatever, you know, make the Magick your own. I always start from the pinky for some odd reason. Okay, you're gonna go to the next digit and you're going to tie another knot. And with this knot, John Doe is bound. Okay, see them being bound each time you tie that knot. You're tying the Magick into the knot, okay? And you're just going to repeat that process where all the digits will have a knot saying that, okay? So at the end, you should have 5 knots. All the fingers should be bound, okay? It's okay if you have leftover string at the end. What I like to do is at that last part, I just wrap it all the way around, thinking about how they're bound. If you don't have any extra, that's perfectly fine. You would skip that step. I like to have my Magick a little bit neat, even though witchcraft is very messy, has always been messy. For those of you that have been doing it for a while, you kind of know. Ta-da! So it looks like this. I love it. I'm a real big believer in aesthetics. So there you go. So it's all bound, okay? Now, remember how we made those ashes from the tag lock of them? All you're going to do is now you're going to sprinkle some of that ashes onto the name, John Doe. Okay? And you'll just sprinkle. 3 resonates with me, so I always do like 3 sprinklings. And you're just gonna make an X with your finger using these ashes. Okay? It's okay if it doesn't mark it up, just know that you're making an X with the ashes. After you've done the X with the ashes, you're just gonna take your hand, put it over it, and you're gonna say this spell 3 times. Hands that do such evil deeds, thoughts that form an endless need, bind them now from whence they come, bind their hands from doing harm. Okay, now that you've said that spell, all you're going to do is just keep this safe and let the spell do its work, okay? You're gonna take the ashes and this and put it in a container. I tend to put this in like a plastic container to kind of keep all the energy all in one area. If you don't have that, you can use a glass jar. This in particular, especially when it comes to bindings, this one I found that keeping it in a plastic container, a plastic bag, works a lot better. It doesn't tend to let that energy kind of seep out. It kind of keeps it contained to the actual target. So, and then you just let it do its magic. Now, why I love this spell is this one is a little easier to undo should you change your mind, especially if it's a family member or whatever, what have you. Then you would just cut all the knots to undo the spell and then just burn this final hand to undo it. But like I said, let it do its magic, especially if it's someone that you know that's doing harm, let it run its course. But should an emergency arise and you want to undo the spell, then you would just cut all these knots, burn the final hand, and then just discard the remnants. Well, I hope you liked today's spell. If you did, give it a thumbs up and share it so that other people could find help with this spell. I'm hoping that you don't really need this spell, but it's always good to also have it in case you do need it. I'd rather have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. So, as always, stay earthy, stay magical, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye for now.